Live? Am I alive? Is the bouncy sound thing working? Looks like the bouncy sound thing's working, therefore I declare myself to be alive. All right. You know, I look at myself in the camera sometimes. I feel like I'm that fat guy from that South Park episode, the one where they're playing World of Warcraft. Here, can I do it like he did? Something like that. Any South Park fans out there? Hello? Hello? All right. Anyway, welcome to Mike Meyers, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time. Ask Me Anything live stream. The goal of this live stream is to provide those of us who are isolated because of the coronavirus an opportunity to continue our studies on primarily the CompTIA IT Fundamentals, A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certifications. We can certainly go beyond that, but that's kind of where our lane is here. So the goal of this AMA is that you ask me questions, okay? We do from time to time have topics that come up. Like today, for example, we're going to be doing WireShark, the popular protocol analyzer. But in general, the goal here is that you ask me questions. So even if, like I'm saying, today we're doing WireShark, well, still ask questions you have. You know, we're going to probably talk for a little bit before we do WireShark, so if there's some questions, this is the opportunity to ask those. It's going to be an interesting day today, to say the least. We have Scott Jernigan and Dave Rush from my office are helping out today. As always, thanks guys, really appreciate you being here. This is going to be a real Apollo 13 kind of day, kids. I've got everything tweaked. I actually spent more than the usual amount of, I usually, rehearse like for 10 minutes before a live stream, but this one actually took a couple hours to get some things put together. So hopefully everything will work out right. Yeah, knock on wood. Maybe the power will go out or something. We'll see. But anyway, let's. Who's on today? The usual suspects. Troy Stevens. Troy, I was actually going to talk about the question we had, but I'm glad it worked out for you. So no, I won't. Okay. Alice Pazzi, virtualized Win 10, WireShark in front of me, ready to go. Look at you, you go, girl. All right. Alan Starrett, WireShark Wednesday. Yep, it's WireShark today. I see some new names in here. Ben Barkley, have you been on before? I forget so many names. Simon Spink, that's definitely a new name. Welcome aboard. Falak is back. Yeah, Falak, I'm going to tell you, man, you made me work. It's been a while since I've done a TLS handshake. And so that's going to be our last demonstration in WireShark today. Is going to be a TLS handshake. Network Mage question. What are some common indicators of a man-in-the-middle attack in WireShark on a wireless network? Well, if it's wireless, probably the first thing I would be looking for is, what would I be looking for more than anything else? To initiate a wireless man-in-the-middle attack, you're probably going to be spoofing a host. And that's probably the first thing I would be kind of looking for. And to be honest with you, those are really, really hard to see in just raw WireShark. You'd probably want to start considering looking at some intrusion detection, wireless intrusion detection stuff to go through raw, through gazillions of things like that. You could do it in WireShark, but it would be tricky. In my opinion, there's not a lot of easy indicators of man-in-the-middle attacks. There's some out there, but I'm not sure what everybody knows about WireShark, so I'm nervous to answer that question right now because I don't know where everybody is on WireShark. So we could start talking about WireShark for 20 minutes, and I could answer you, and everybody else would be lost. So let's hang on to that one, and feel free to re-ask that question as we get a little bit deeper into that. It's a good question, though. Jason Helms. Why does that name sound familiar to me? This is my health drink. I don't know what it's... I call it Slurm. It's good for me. The usual suspects. Yes, Terrence Tech, Vance Moore. Ben Barkley. You emailed with us the first time on YouTube. Okay, it's all good. Welcome aboard. Joe Perea, good Irish name there. Hello, Joe. I got Andre, my favorite Belgian. I got VirtualBox to work, installed XP, can't get MOHAA to work yet. What's MOHAA? I'm terrible at acronyms. Mike429, I'm a student of Jonathan Wiseman. Jonathan. Tell Jonathan I said, hello, Mike, please. Do you have any plans for more books on other certs? Not right now. Be honest with you, between A+, Net+, Security+, doing the books, doing the videos, doing practice banks, I don't know. Don't know. Been toying around with Linux for a while. I haven't really found any Linux plus LPI kind of courses that I like, which means maybe I need to do one. What else? And Cisco. Somebody needs to get a good Cisco course out there. But I'm not, I don't know. Cisco's too big of a stack for me. So poor Jonathan Wiseman's probably be in a panic. I'm not going to do it, Jonathan. You're okay. Mike, is Ethereal renamed WireShark? Yes, Terrence, a long time ago. I haven't even heard of, I haven't heard the term Ethereal in a long time. Falak Khan, Security Plus book has more material about topics comparing to videos. Well, yeah, I guess maybe. Falak, we're going to have a little conversation, you and me, my brother, because it's actually as apropos to something that happened today. I got a response back from CompTIA in regards to HomeGroups, and let's just say it's an interesting response. Falak Khan, okay. I get this question, is the video enough? Is the book enough? You know? One more time, you guys ready? In my opinion, the perfect training triumvirate is a book, is a video, and is practice questions. Forgive my terrible English. Can anybody do anything with any one of these? Probably. Have people been successful? Yes. Have you received a lot of complaints from people saying your videos are insufficient and I want my $10 back from Udemy or whatever it is? No. I very rarely get complaints. I would like to think that the reason I don't get many people complaining that my material is insufficient is because I work very hard to make all of my material sufficient. However, Falak, I think it's important to have a book. I think it's important to have a video. I think it's important to have practice questions. Can I beat you playing golf with just a driver, a 6-iron, and a putter? Maybe, you know what I mean? But in order to make sure I have enough success when I'm playing golf, I like to carry a good selection of golf bags and a sand wedge because I tend to drop the golf ball in the sand a lot. So how's that for an answer? Oh, Andre, I am sorry, Dutch. I apologize. Unlike most Americans, I'm actually very good at geography. And here's the problem, Andre. I'm probably going to call you Belgium again because I'm going to got to get you. You're from the Netherlands. You are not from Belgium. I'm also a big World War II history nut, so a lot of stuff happened to you guys there in 1939 and 1944 and 45. Oh, Medal of Honor, Allied Assault, MOHAA. Andre, you making me laugh. Uzbekistanzi Denzel. Hey, Mike, just want to let you know I passed my Net Plus. Big round of applause to Uzbekistani Denzel. Good job. Well done, sir. Just reading. Noib. Hello, everyone. Hello, Mike. I am new to SEC. Well, you're in the right place, man. That's what we're here for. You guys are talking about games. I have no interest in that right now. Okay, Falak, you feel that the videos, I am not saying that material is not far enough, but book has more materials. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. Sometimes it's easier to write, put in an extra 60 pages. Yeah, and Falak, you hit the nail on the head. I don't have a lot of interest. I would rather if there was a world that didn't have certification sometimes, because I just want to talk about technology to make you a good tech. I mean, that's my big motivation. And there's always going to be variances. There's always going to be variances. So a couple of things I want to talk about here. First of all, I have very disappointing news. Her Royal Highness, the cutest Pomeranian in the world, is not coming today. Unfortunately, her owner is a little bit under the weather, not coronavirus, maybe just food poisoning. So you don't get to see the cutest Pomeranian that has ever existed on the face of the earth. And hopefully we'll bring her in when her owner is feeling better. This really is. I mean, I like dogs, but I don't want to take care of them, you know. I'm a little selfish that way. But this dog, and dogs like this big, it's a tiny little dog. Cute dog. So sorry about that. So no, Her Royal Highness Wicket is the dog's name. I have to do it another time. So the other thing I want to talk about is sometimes it can be a challenge when I get a question from you guys. Sometimes it can be a challenge for me to just answer it directly, because when I see, I've been doing this a long time, and when I see how somebody asks a question, I can tell by the way they're asking it that they might be missing something, and that can be a challenge. And especially when people start to go, well, over here it says this, and over here it says that. It's like, I don't really have the context of what that is, and you know, I don't have enough time to read 30 pages of stuff. I am capable of being wrong. I guarantee you, every video I've made, every book I've written, every practice bank I've generated has just plain old wrong stuff in there. I don't like it. I try not to do it, but sometimes it happens. And when those situations take place, and because you and I have a direct communication through the live streams, through email, through other ways, don't get too frustrated at me if I seem to be long and drawn out, because I'm looking at what you're saying and I need to pull you back to where you need to be. I got the most interesting email. Very nice person. Where's this email? Hang on. Hang on, guys. Let me find this. Where am I? I have too many email accounts. Okay. So here's a question I got. I'm not naming names, and it's okay. So, Mike, you're watching my Net Plus video, and you say that a max frame for Ethernet is 1,500 bytes. And then later I say it's 1,522 bytes, and that a jumbo frame can be 9,000 bytes. So this person's conclusion is that an Ethernet frame can have 9,000 bytes max, right? Sure. This is what I call where you are technically correct, but you have no friends. So my answer was, I'm hoping you guys know this stuff, the maximum payload for an Ethernet frame is 1,500 bytes. The maximum length of an Ethernet frame is 1,522. And jumbo frames are rare-ish, but they're 9,000 bytes. So I gave him an example of a question, because these are the kind of questions you actually see on CompTIA exams, on any certification exam. Which of the following answers shows the longest length for an Ethernet frame? A, 32 bytes, B, 1,500 bytes, C, 1,501 bytes, or D, 1,522 bytes. Now, remember I told you that the number one reason people fail CompTIA exams is test anxiety? Does anybody remember what the number two reason is that people fail CompTIA test exams? It's because you know too much. So you would look at this question and go, wow, I know that a jumbo frame is 9,000. None of these answers are acceptable. I hate CompTIA and their big jerk faces. Well, there is an answer in there that would make sense, 1,522, right? So you would pick that answer. And CompTIA and all certifying bodies are notorious for questions like this. Nobody, and CompTIA works hard to write good questions, but sometimes they mess up. And you've got to be flexible when you see these types of questions, and you've got to be prepared to deal with that. And I'm just wagging my finger at you. Oh, okay, the other big thing, I had got a hold of CompTIA in regards to the whole home group thing. For those of you who don't know, if you're studying for the A+, home groups, it might be on Net Plus too, I forget. Home groups are listed in the objectives. And starting with this last update of Windows 10, home groups are gone, like poof, like gone. So unless you have an old copy of Windows 10 that you take off the internet, you literally throw it in a VM and cut off the networking capabilities, they're all going to be updated, and home groups are going to disappear very, very quickly. So I went to CompTIA, and I was like, hey, CompTIA, you've got home groups listed as an objective. Straight up, there's an objective that says this. So what are we going to do about that? Scott Jerning's going to be a text. Andre is Dutch, not Belgian. I got it. I'm going to imagine Andre as a Dutchman wearing a traditional Dutch costume. Okay, wooden shoes. There you go. All right. I got it, Andre. So the response was basically, oh, did I close that? No. The response was interesting, to say the least. Let me get this up so I can show you guys. And basically what they said to me was, Mike, why don't you read the objectives and see what we say about stuff like that? And I did. So I just pulled up, this is from Security Plus. Come on. Okay, so read this with me. Under please note, the list of examples provided in bulletin format are not exhaustive lists. Other examples of technologies, processes, or tasks pertaining to each objective may be included on the exam, although not listed or covered in the objectives document. CompTIA is constantly reviewing and updating and blah, 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 blah. The bottom line is, how I interpret this is not what CompTIA said. They said basically, look at what every objective sheet we print out on Earth says. And my response is, we have the right to put anything other than the numbered objectives, which are the top 5 or 6 objectives for any of their certification. We can put in there anything we want. Now this makes me laugh because A, I get very frustrated at like McGraw-Hill because they're like, well, Mike, you missed objective, sub-objective of sub-objective of sub-objective. And it's like, I did miss it. I don't care about that objective. It's boring. The chances of them being tested on it are small. The amount of training it would take me to get them to understand that objective is obnoxiously large compared to, they've got to learn a lot as it is. So I've always pushed back on that. I was like, I just don't want to teach that objective. Then they get Scott Jernigan to write a paragraph about it. But now, and they say this verbiage has always been there. They're saying that this is not an exhaustive list. The objectives, which I don't get any special information as a trainer. You understand? All I get as a trainer is I get to look at upcoming objectives before you do. And I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement for that. But I have no insight. Do you understand? The people who write CompTIA's stuff, which compete against me, they don't have any insight on this. So the bottom line is that be a good tech, try to learn the objectives, and if stuff comes up that you don't know anything about, who cares? I don't care. I guarantee, well, what does a guarantee mean? I affirm that everything, that I teach you enough to pass the exams. I affirm that. I've gotten, we haven't counted, probably millions of people, over 1 million people, through CompTIA exams. Again, we never actually checked that number. It's a lot. But the bottom line is that CompTIA isn't fair. No certifying body is fair. Life isn't fair, you know? And you don't panic about the details. Bottom line to all this, I'm sure CompTIA will drop HomeGroups from their objective lists. They may even make an announcement from it, but, you know, suck it up, Buttercup? Yeah, I don't have a better answer than that. Does anybody want to respond on that one? Just reading. Falak, it would be helpful if you could do a table for wireless network protocol the way you've done for symmetric on 84, the A+ book. Yeah, Falak, I guess I just assume that that's more common knowledge if you're up to a Security Plus. Yeah, everybody likes tables. Falak, you're a table person. You know, other people don't like it. Dave L., good evening, Mike. I am not sure if I have a MIT in my home network. If I have a MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, in my home network, what do you think according pictures ooh, geez, Dave L., I'm having a little trouble with you there, brother. I have a MIT, Scott, can you? Dave, I'm not quite sure what you're asking me, amigo. Try again. Morton. You know, Morton, my grandfather's name was Morton. What network setup do you have at home? What brands do you prefer? I get everything. What did I buy last? I've been buying a lot of Asus home stuff that works out pretty good. Asus. What else do I use? Gosh. Who am I using for my wireless? Scott, what's my mesh network? I forgot the name of it. I'm not super brand name nervous about networking equipment. You know, my primary switches are all. Why was my mind going blank? One of the most popular brands of switches out there for Soho. They're all blue. Ah. I guess that tells you something right there. It's not something I really. ERO, thank you. Yes, thanks, Scott. EERO for my wireless mesh network. Amcrest cameras. Netgear. I use a lot of Netgear products. I like Netgear. The price point's right. The things are tanks. You can abuse them and they don't break. How's that for an answer? Also, one last thing. Next Wednesday, a week from today, we've got Jeff Sage from the AC Council coming here. EC Council coming here, not here. We're going to do it over a Zoom meeting. But I mean, these are the guys who do certified ethical hacker and stuff like that. This is a really rare opportunity, especially for those of you who really want to consider a security career. He's the kind of guy who can tell you, what are the opportunities. I mean, I can tell you some, but he can tell you more. And he's definitely going to tell us about EC Council products, which is fine. I mean, that's why they're doing this for free. But you need to expect, if you know anybody who's into security, next week's going to be a big deal. And that'll be next Wednesday. For you guys on LinkedIn, I've already put some ads out. For Udemy people, we'll throw an ad out there too if you're on the list. But otherwise, spread the word. It's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm just going to let this guy go. He seems pretty nice. What is a dead giveaway of a security issue in WireShark? having a second DHCP server suddenly spit out a new lease that didn't exist before. How's that for one? Okay. Sven, I'm almost feeling like you're trying to challenge me. Yeah? Well, what's one example? I know, I'm putting that in there. Michael Davis. My name's Michael Davis Myers. Hey, Mike, still reading A+, plan on taking my test in this month. Good luck to you. How hard do you think it'll be finding my first job? Michael, if you lived in Houston and you had bilateral symmetry and didn't drool on yourself, and if you could get to work and you didn't smell bad, could pass a technical exam, I'd have you work within a week of you being here. Shoot. Everybody talks about the high unemployment rate in the United States because of COVID, and it's a serious issue. I'm not ever going to try to cut away from that, but it's just, I see lots of demand, a lot of demand for off-site work. So, KS2 Bueller. Just passed my A+ yesterday. Big round of applause to you, sir. I'm not sure about Net Plus or CCNA. Which one do I do next? Man, Bueller, is it Bueller? Am I doing it right? KS02 Bueller. I really like Network Plus. Network Plus is the most important certification that you'll never be able to use, at least in terms of getting jobs. But man, does Network Plus provide a overview, conceptualization, and understanding of networking that you'll never get once you turn into a Cisco head or a Microsoft head or wherever direction you choose to go from there. That's my opinion. Ooh. Lots of people responding. Greg Davis likes Asus products, Netgear, Cisco, Netgear, Orbi for mesh. Man, I can't remember brand names for anything. Thomas Robinson. What year was the first Netgear router came out? I don't know. 90s, I guess? I don't know. Somali Udadisib. What is the difference between IBSS, BSS, and ESSID? Okay, we can talk about 802.11 real quick. So, man, make sure I'm not lying to you. Hang on. IBSS better be for what I think it is. Is that? So make sure I'm not a liar. Yeah, ad hoc. Okay, great. You guys love it when I mess up. I screwed up on a 568 A and B diagram a couple of months ago, and you guys are like very helpful. So I double checked myself. All right, here we go. You ready? So on 802.11 network, you have either ad hoc or infrastructure connection. So with infrastructure mode, you have a wireless access point, okay? And that wireless access point kind of acts like the hub. So all the clients connect to this guy. So one wireless access point with one SSID name, like, coffee shop wireless or whatever, that is a basic service set identifier, or what you're calling a BSS. The other way you can set up a 802.11 network is what's called ad hoc mode. In ad hoc mode, there is no wireless access point. And with ad hoc, you have a bunch of, it's peer-to-peer, it's mesh, actually. And you set up a ad hoc mode by one of the machines starts the SSID in ad hoc mode. Anybody can start it up. It's built into every wireless client that's out there, man. And once you've set that up, then everybody starts connecting. But they're not connecting to you. They're just connecting to the IBSS, the Independent Basic Service Set Identifier. Now, so your regular SSID, your basic service set identifier is the most common way to do it. Now, when you start getting into an enterprise, then what you'll end up doing is you'll have many, many wireless access points, which usually all connect to a single switch. And all of these individual wireless access points, they all have the same, they're all putting out the exact same SSID. And part of the 802.11 standard is that wireless access points on the when they're with their Ethernet connection, they will start talking to each other on the back channel automatically. So when you have lots of WAPs with the same SSID, you have an extended service set identifier. When you have one WAP with one SSID, you have a basic service set identifier. And if you're running in ad hoc mode and you ain't got no WAPs at all, then you have an IBSS. Mike 429. I actually have a dear friend of mine who is and actually sort of a competitor of mine, and I don't remember what, she lives really close to one of those lakes in upstate New York, and I've heard it's pretty tough up there. Yeah. Come to Texas. We'll go shooting. Somali, I have A+ and Net Plus, but all the jobs are searching CCNA. Ah, come on, man. All the jobs? Where are you looking? If you're in the States, get on Craigslist, you know. Are you actually generating 200 different resumes? We had last week or week before last, we had a whole class just on resumes. You should watch that video. You know, but it was more than resumes. How do you get your name out there? What do you do? I get frustrated. And I'm not picking on anybody here, okay? I'm not, because I don't know anybody. But I've had so many people, I mean hundreds of people, who are like, well, I can't find a job. It's like, I always have a hard time believing that, right? So, you know, I would be like, you know what? Here's my phone number. Call me, okay? And then all of a sudden, they're like, well, you know, I'm never going to move out of this tiny town of 400 people, or, you know, I don't have a car, or, you know, I have some debilitating handicap that would make it impossible or extremely difficult to be able to do a job, or, you know, well, I'm not going to work shift work, or I'm not starting at $12 an hour. And it's just, you hear this stuff. And Somali, I'm not picking on you, but you got to be gutsy. You got to push yourself out there. If you have A+ and Net Plus, you should already be working. If you're looking for jobs and they're all asking for CCNA, then you're looking at the wrong jobs. You need to be looking at more entry-level type work. Now, I know it's easy because I can pontificate and you can't respond back on a real-time basis. And in no way am I picking on you in a personal way. And please don't take it that way. It's just getting your nose out there initially is always a challenge. It's always a challenge. And you've got to push. And when I say push, you should be asking people. You should have business cards printed up. You know, here, run down to Office Depot and get them printed up for like $14. They don't have to be that great. And you use the 3-foot rule. Anybody within 3 feet, you're asking them either where is a job, or with your company, could I have the phone number for your HR people? You know, you push. And that's where work comes from. This speech could go on for a long time, but we really are going to do WireShark. Network Mage. Can you get me a job at one of the tier 1 NOCs? No. I can't even get in those places. All right, Samai, I hope I answered. I'm sorry. Okay. Ozza, it looks like you guys have got something going here. Kevin Carlson, I have gotten my foot in the door by working for some places like Tech Systems and doing contract work. Absolutely. And then the other thing is, if your first job is not the optimal job for you, then you immediately keep looking for jobs. But the first thing you do is work. Certifications should be done on nights and weekends. I know the COVID virus changes things a little bit. I'm sensitive to that, but in general, you first get a job and you get better jobs through certification. Okay, Mike, shut up. Mike, I think my question keeps getting lost, but do you have any? So, yeah, Ben, it happens sometimes, and you're doing the right thing. Just keep asking. But do you have any suggestions for study materials specifically covering what needs to be straight memorized for the A+? Ben. You're like the guy who comes up, I'm going to try to teach him how to play chess. And the guy goes, so I set him down, I go, okay, so here's a pawn. And they're like, no. I just want to know what's on the exam. Just show me how to checkmate. Ben, if you want to go that route, then probably what you ought to do is get practice questions and just pound practice questions. Because I feel that you want to be more reactive. That's okay. It's lots of different ways to learn. They're all good. You should be getting tons of practice questions. And then you and Falak should get together and send each other tables. Make your own. Okay. You guys ready to start doing some WireShark? All right. Let's do WireShark. Okay. One of the things that techs often ask me is like, Mike, what tools do I have to buy to become a? It's like, no, get a number 2 Phillips screwdriver is pretty much all you need. But there are certain utilities and tools that you're expected to know. Okay. I have a selection on my website called Mike's Cool Tools, and it's tons of software out there that most of these are freeware, and they're just what we know. They're tools to be known. If you're going to be taking Net Plus or Security Plus, WireShark is actually an objective. So let's start off by understanding what WireShark is, okay? So WireShark is a protocol analyzer. What WireShark does is it works with some type of packet capture program. The packet capture program will grab all the packets going in and out of your system, and it will then analyze that 8 ways to Sunday, okay? WireShark is completely free. For the record, guys, they've just had a major update. If any of you guys were around a month and a half ago, the last time I did a little WireShark in here, you're going to see some changes because it's a little different. So WireShark, if you can look at all of the packets, I should say frames, Ethernet frames, or 802.11 frames, or there's even other protocols that we don't use very often that still work. If you could see every frame coming in or out of your system, that could be a very, very powerful tool for so many things that it's almost hard to wrap your head around. I can't teach you how to use WireShark, okay? Because teaching you how to use WireShark would be like teaching you how to use a screwdriver. Sure, I can do some demonstrations, and I will today. But just because I show you some demonstrations, like, oh, here, you can take this screwdriver and screw sheetrock into a wall. And then you'll sit there and go, okay, that's what this is for. Once I have a screwdriver, I can screw sheetrock into walls. It's like, well, no. You could use a screwdriver to take apart a computer or to repair your automobile. Or, and you're like, well, why didn't you show me those, Mike? Because it's such a vast, Phillips screwdrivers are such a wonderful utility that I couldn't even begin to hope to start to show you how powerful it is. But what I can do is, let's keep this analogy going a little bit longer. I can show you why Phillips screwdrivers are good. I can teach you how to hold the handle and how to turn, right? And how to unscrew. And I can hopefully give you enough understanding that if in the future you were to see a Phillips screw someplace that had nothing to do with the examples I gave you, you would still be able to use it. Does that make sense? Okay? So all we're going to do today is I'm going to get you started with the interface of WireShark. Hopefully get you a little excited about it. And run through how many examples I got. Like, I'm going to do like 5 examples of things you can do with WireShark. But from there, the discovery and the joy is up to you. And all I can do is hope that I can give you enough examples where you could think of situations where WireShark would be handy. Is that fair? Okay. Nobody's writing questions in, so I'm figuring that everybody's sitting there going, quit talking and start showing. Okay. Number 1, let's take a look. Where do we get WireShark? I had to move everything around. Now I got to move everything back. Life is hard. Way too many things open. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, here we go. You guys ready? So, whoops. Wrong one. Here we go. All right, so this is WireShark. So it's www.wireshark.org. And you can just go there and download yourself a copy, and can't quite show it all to you. So you download yourself a copy of WireShark. It works great. It works in Windows. It works on Linux. Dave Rush, when he did his Raspberry Pi, showed you how you can use WireShark on Raspberry Pis running. I forgot what distro it was, Dave. So WireShark is a great tool, and it's pretty much cross-platform. I use WireShark almost exclusively on Windows because I'm mainly a Windows guy, to be honest with you. I've run it on Linux, got it running. The important thing about WireShark is that it's a protocol analyzer, but it's not the only protocol analyzer out there. There's lots of them. And more importantly, so you have, in Linux, you have TCP dump, you have Nmap. Nmap is a protocol analyzer, but it actually has its own packet tool. Anyway, so the packet capture is an important part of this. And when you download WireShark, you'll get WireShark, and then you'll get what's, I think it's called NPCap these days. It used to be called WinPCap, but they keep changing the name. And by the time you download it, they'll probably change the name again. So you're really downloading 2 things. And in fact, with the latest version of WireShark, you get USB PCAP. So you can plug a wireless network card or a wireless or a wired NIC into your USB port and use that as a capture tool. The capture tool that comes with WireShark is considered by many people to be not that great. It's pretty good, but it misses frames sometimes and things like that. And usually when people are getting more aggressive about picking up, they have to have every frame that goes in and out. They'll use other tools. The important thing is these capture tools all generate capture files. And these files have pretty much all have the last name of pcap.pcap. So you create a capture file, and then you run it through WireShark or one of these other tools to actually analyze it. You can put captured devices in strategic parts of your network, and all they're going to do is capture everything, and then you grab the capture file remotely or however it is, and then bring it in to your local system and then analyze it, okay? So you've got to be comfortable with that conceptually. You can run TCP dump on a Linux system, save the dump as a PCAP file, bring it to a Windows system, and analyze it there. Are we okay conceptually with that? All right. So with that understanding, let's go ahead and open up the interface for this guy. You guys aren't going to believe this. I had everything set up except WinPCAP. Whoa, one moment, please. I'll do this real fast. Sorry. There we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WireShark. Let's make this a little smaller, let it fit a little bit better maybe. There we go. All right. I'm going to fix this. It's not quite as pretty as I'd like it to be. Bear with me, please. Oh, here. There we go. Okay, now you can see the entire WireShark window. All right, so WireShark, the initial interface and the main interface we use breaks into these three pieces. So up here are the captures that are coming in. And I've had this thing capturing for a while, so I've got probably 20,000 capture lines in here. Each one of these represents a single Ethernet frame coming in or out of this system. I'm going to stop you right now because one of the first things people ask me is like, well, why am I only capturing what's going between my system, what's going in and out of my system? Because that's where the capture tool is, man. So you're like, well, okay, what if I want to capture everything that's going in and out of my router? Well, then you could, if you wanted to get crazy about it, you'd probably get Dave Rush to come up with a tool that would, instead of having a cable that runs from your router to your main switch, put a little device in there and have everything going in and out of that device, going to a capture file. You can do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, but Mike, see, I don't want to go through all that work. I just want to capture stuff that's coming out of Janet's machine over there. You can't do that. It's not how this works. I guess if you really wanted to go nuts, with the right kind of switch, you can generate maintenance ports on these switches. And this is not a cheap switch. And on that switch, you could say anything that's going in and out of port 12, which is Janet's port that she's connected to, I want to see that as well. So you could do something like that. But generally, everything you're going to see on a WireShark capture are frames that are coming in or going out. So those could be frames that are broadcasts. They could be multicasts. They could be unicast, that between you and a web server or whatever it might be. Now, in this example that we're going to be running today, I have turned off IPv6. WireShark works beautifully with IPv6. It's perfect. The problem is as an introductory thing, I'm trying to keep it a little bit simpler. So IPv6 has been shut down on my system just so we don't get as much goo showing up. Does that make any sense? Okay. All right, let's get back in here. Okay, so these are all the individual frames. This in the middle, which is probably one of the more interesting spots, this is actually details of that frame. So the first line up here, this is just, it's keeping count. When did the frame come in? How long is the frame? What device captured the frame? If you want to in WireShark, it can capture from multiple interfaces. In fact, I turned off all of my interfaces except my wired Ethernet, the one that this live stream is going through, again, just to try to keep it simpler. Then it's going to, here you go, layer 2 right there, man. Ethernet, there's the MAC addresses coming in and out. Ethernet tells what type of data type it is, that's IPv4. Let's go up the OSI 7-layer model to layer 3. It's IPv4, whatever flags are in there, checksum. There's the IP address to and the IP address from. Do you guys see that? So this is, what do we got here? This is UDP. So here, this is a UDP. So it's going to say, here's my destination source port and my destination port. And then DNS. And there's the DNS information. So that second window is critical in WireShark. You click on a certain frame that you want to look at, and then you look down in that second window because it just breaks that frame apart in tremendous detail. So that's what you're doing in WireShark. You click on something that's interesting to you and you open it up in detail in that second frame. In the bottom, this is whatever that chunk of information is, but it's in just the raw hexadecimal format. And to be honest with you guys, most of the time I just minimize that completely because I rarely find a need to be in there. So you've been forewarned. We're just going to go for this. Number one, I'm going to show you some examples. In the examples, WireShark may not have caught all the frames. It happens sometimes, especially if I'm looking for like a perfect type of handshake or something like that. Also keep in mind that WireShark has its own nomenclature on a lot of stuff, which can be confusing sometimes. And especially when we get into TLS handshake later, I'll show you that sometimes their terminology. So this is not a perfect tool. It is a really, really, really good tool, but it is an imperfect tool. It is also wildly complicated. And I will show you enough tools to get you started, and I'll show you enough tools to get you through Net Plus and Security Plus, but you take it from there. And guys asking me about man-in-the-middle attacks, and I have some ideas, but I'd be more interested to say what type of man-in-the-middle attack, or more importantly, why are you asking that question? What did you see? Nope, we got some questions. Hang on. Sven, does WireShark only capture frames from the NIC of the machine you're operating on? No, I think I answered that one for you though, didn't I? Somali, port mirroring span. Not sure what you're asking there, man. Oh, maintenance ports also be like port mirrors? Sure, same thing to me. How can we shut down IPv6 on our, okay, I guess I can show you how to do that real quick. So I'm going to right click on my little window. I'm going to go to network connections. Let me pull this up so you guys can see what I'm doing. It's a little big, but what the heck. So, okay, so over here, Ethernet. I always get this wrong. I always do this wrong. Yep, see, I did it wrong again. It's Network and Sharing Center. Bring this over. And then we go to change adapter settings. Now you can see I've actually disabled all of my NICs. You guys don't have to do this, okay? But, and if you disable the wrong thing, you're going to be cut off from me. So anyway, here's my Ethernet. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to Properties. Okay, under Properties, just scroll down. There's IPv6 right there. You see I've unchecked it. And then once you uncheck it, you just hit OK. I'm going to hit cancel because I've already done it. But that, my friends, is how we do that. Let me just, I'm canceling out. Let me just close all this. You guys don't have to sit here and watch me close out stuff. I've been going through the slurm today, man. Had to actually work out outdoors today. There was our health club here in Texas. They still have health clubs open, even although at low capacity. There were too many people in there. I was like, I'll go work out. They have workout equipment in the shade outside, but it's Texas, man. It gets hot. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our first capture. You guys ready? Here we go. All right. Okay, so this is a capture from before, and I have no interest in it. If I wanted to, I can do, oh no, is this happening again? For some reason, my software that's allowing me to do the live stream doesn't show, it doesn't show the pull downs, which is just not going to work. Let's do it old school, I guess. we'll make this work. All right, so here we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit File. Now, if I wanted to, if I have a capture I want to keep, I can save that capture. Call it Timmy. And that way, if I need that later, I can have that. But let's go ahead and start our first capture. So here we go. We go up to capture. Oh, wait a minute. WireShark is a complicated program, folks. I'm going to show you one way to do stuff. There's probably 8 different ways to start a capture in WireShark. They all do the same. I'm showing you one. All right, go up to capture. Now you can click on options and it will actually show you. I have a lot of virtual machines in here and virtual networks, USB stuff, loopback. I got a 802.11 in here and Ethernet. See all that? So I can pick which one I want. Here, I'll just click on this guy. And this right here, can I get you? It's a little frustrating. This is the one thing I didn't practice. So this is promiscuous mode. Stop giggling. Promiscuous mode simply means that this network card in my system will grab all incoming frames. So let's say it's a multicast that's not really for him, he'll grab that. Every broadcast, he'll grab that. Get the idea? So you want it to be in promiscuous mode. All right, so you can't see it, but down at the bottom it says start. So I'm gonna go ahead and click start. Oh shoot, I had a filter on there. You can actually filter different types of packets. So when I hit start, I didn't see anything. I'd forgotten that I'd left a filter on there. Sorry. All right, so here it goes. It's starting to capture. Chunk, chunk, chunky, chink, chink. It's grabbing like crazy. I'm just going to let it keep grabbing for a while. See, I can adjust all this stuff here. These are all the different, so this is the number of captures it's made. So it's already made close to 20,000. This is a timestamp. This is the source IP address. This is a destination IP address. Oopsie. What protocol is being captured, how long it is, and then some real basic type of information. All right, so we're going to let this capture go for a minute, and let's just stop the capture. Okay, so now the capture is stopped. One of the things you got to be careful about with WireShark is that remember, I got like 18,000 of these in here, right? So at this point, we just want to pick on one that might look interesting. I'm going to scroll this a little bit bigger. And you know what? I'm going to go back to that wire. Let's just see if this works. You guys won't be able to see the pull downs, but we'll go back as needed. So I'm just going to, what I'm doing is I'm looking at these protocols here, guys. So there's certain things, like I know that the IP address for this network card is 172.18.13.102. And these, I got web pages open. I'm streaming this huge live stream. So that's making lots of packets. So I'm just trying to find something that's interesting. Because basically all you're seeing here is me talking. All right, so here's a little ARP command. All right, so you can see that it actually tries to, if it can, if I've named something, they'll try to get a name for it. And this is one of my cameras, and the camera is broadcasting. It's trying to find the router, because my router is 172.18.13.1. So that's a little ARP. We can actually break this down. The frame's not that interesting, but the Ethernet. So that's a broadcast. You see all the F's there? And it came from my little camera. And here's the ARP part. And it's requesting IP addresses. Actually, it's not requesting IP addresses. He's requesting a MAC address. So let's see, can we do this? So up at the top here, this is your best buddy. This is the filters. So you can see I've typed in ARP here, and what it's going to do is it's going to filter out, it's going to show me only the ARP commands. Wow. So this Amcrest, these are my cameras that are for some reason trying to phone out to the internet. They shouldn't be doing that. There you go. Who is asking for a man-in-the-middle attack example? I don't know if this is a man-in-the-middle attack, but it's something I don't like. These Amcrests are cameras, and for some reason it keeps trying to ping out to the router, and it's trying to phone home. I don't have cloud storage or anything on these cameras. There's no reason for that camera to be phoning home. I'm going to go look in the cameras, make sure, or do I have a tool set that's installed to update firmware or something like that? See where I'm coming from? That's just from an ARP. So Eris, this is my router. And this router's ARPing like crazy. Lots of ARPs. One of the first things that happens when you start playing with WireShark is you're like, there is a lot of noise on my network. There's a lot of blabbing around going on, and there is. In today's world, you know, you have all these different protocols for recognizing other systems. If you had IPv6 running, we'd have router advertisements and neighbor advertisements going on. If you're running Windows 10 systems are constantly phoning home for one reason or another. And usually people get their first panic when they go to a command prompt and type in netstat and they see all these different connections and you're like, I don't have any web browsers up. Why are all these connections going on? And then usually the next time that people panic is when they first run WireShark on their home systems and say they see all this stuff. You know, like even looking at this, why is my router broadcasting these ARPs so much? I don't know. I mean, there's all that WireShark does is it tells me this exists. So then I'm going to get online and, you know, type in, you know, AT&T fiber router constantly ARPing. And, you know, I'm not the first person to see this. Okay. So here's a great example where you don't have to know much about WireShark to have it start to help you figure things out. Okay. Let's go through the list here. Okay. So the first one I want to do is let's take a look at DHCP. DHCP is interesting. And what I'm going to do is I already went through a DHCP where I unhooked. So I did an IP config release, and then I did an IP config renew. And what's important is when you're using WireShark and you want to see something happen, you have to make sure that the capture is running while what you want happening is happening. So a great example of that would be with DHCP. Now I can't do this real time because it would knock off the live stream. I guess I could have done it in a virtualized machine. I forgot. So, but what I did do is I ran it about 30 minutes before the class started, and I saved the capture file. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just load up a capture file, and let's take a look. So, I really don't like that. It doesn't show you the pull downs. It's so strange. So here, and I'm going to just maybe open recent. Is it even in there? There it is. So this is a PCAP file that I saved earlier. So I'm just going to open this guy up. And it's in a panic. It says, wait, you have a capture file here. What do you want me to do? And I'm just going to click on, there we go. So I'm just going to say continue without saving. All right. Okay, so now I've brought up this old capture file from before, from 30 minutes before this started. And what I want to do is take a look at DHCP information. So your filter is your best buddy here, man. So you see the filter's trying to guess what type of filter I'm asking for. And you see how it goes green? Green means that's a good one. Typos, see how it's still red? That's a bad filter. All right, so DHCP. And then I actually have to click way over here on the right. You got to click this little arrow. Ta-da. All right, so what we have here is a complete DHCP. So I don't know if we want to get into a DHCP lesson right now, but I've got I've got the release because I typed ipconfig release. So my machine, which was 102 at that point, now it's all zeros. And then I typed ipconfig renew. And remember, my computer at that moment does not have an IP address, right? So it sends out a broadcast and it says, I need an IP address. And the first interesting one is right here. We can actually break this one down a little bit. Let me switch over to the other one just for a second. Here we go. So we take a look at this third one. This is the DHCP offer. You can see it comes from my router. Do you see that 172.18.13.1? And it sends out a broadcast. My machine doesn't have an IP address yet, right? So he's just sending this out. And if we look down here, this is where things start to get kind of interesting. Because now we can actually see, here's the DHCP information that it wants to pass out. So it's going to give you, here's the IP address I'm offering you, here's your router. DNS servers under one of these options. There's your DNS server. Actually, router here is actually going to show you the router there. There's your subnet mask. You see all that? That is the actual information that your DHCP server, which in my little network is also my router, is passing out. Pretty cool, right? So, but we're not done with DHCP, because what we have to do next is we have to have the client accept that. So basically what you're seeing, they call it a DHCP request, and that's really what that's happening is my client system saying, yes, thank you, I'll take that. And then at the very last, the fourth step is the ACK, which basically means I now have a DHCP, I am the DHCP server for you, and there can be no other DHCP servers before you. So that's DHCP. It's kind of cool to look at it. I mean, it's fun from an instructional standpoint, but how could that help you fix anything? Well, what if you did a DHCP discover and never got a DHCP offer? Or what if you got a weird DHCP offer that was messed up and hard to read? Or what if you're getting a DHCP offer from somebody other than 172.18.13.1? See where I'm coming from? This is where WireShark can help out by actually looking at your DHCP troubles. Sure, I know that if you have an APIPA address, you have a 169.254 address, you know you've got trouble, but this might help you break it down a little bit more. Or if you've got a weird IP address that you weren't expecting that wasn't 172.18.13, some 102 or whatever, this could help you figure it out. Remember, it's always going to give the MAC address. So, for example, I know that my home router is an ARIS, A-R-R-I-S. What if I have somebody else responding, it's not an ARIS, you know, it's the Linksys or something. You know, I've got a what do we call it? An evil second rogue DHCP server. So there's just one example, okay? Let's try it again. Let's try it with DNS. Okay. All right, so this, let me clear that filter out. All right. First of all, oh, this is a long shot. Oh, I have a lot of DNS in here. I have lots and lots of DNS in here. So if you really want to see DNS information, the first, well, you know what? Let's go through the process. I think you guys will get a kick out of it. All right, so this is, hold on. All right, so this is just me and PowerShell, all right? So if you really want to watch DNS information take place, you're going to have to, man, this is the stuff. If this live stream suddenly ends, it's all my fault. So this is, I'm going to run ipconfig flush DNS. So I no longer have any DNS information. Now what I'm going to do is open up in my browser, and I'm just going to type in www.cheese.com. Okay, so now we're at cheese.com. Great. So the reason I had to go to cheese.com is I wanted to go to a website I probably haven't been to, and I flushed the DNS cache to make sure that I'm seeing all the DNS information. Now, if I had been doing this right, God, I would have started the capture, flushed the DNS cache, and then tried it again. Yeah, Mike screwed up. So I'm going to clear that out. I'm over on WireShark. I'm going to start a capture, capture start. Now I'm going to go to a website. So I went to a fashion website called fred.com. All right, that should all be working now. All right, let's go over to WireShark. Let's stop this capture. Okay. Whew. So I'm going to do a quick filter, DNS. Cool. Okay. So this is just the DNS information. So here is my machine going up to my router, which is its DNS server, and says, I need DNS information. And basically he's looking for, that's fascinating. This is a great example of where WireShark acts a little funky sometimes. I went to www.fred.com, not www.fredjfk. I don't. I'm too lazy to do it again. I'm sure I could make it work right if I played with it for a minute, but this will still get the point across. So there's the query, and then there's the response. That's all there is. I wonder if I typed it wrong a couple of times or something like that. Not sure. I don't know. So this can be an interesting issue. On a little home system like this, it's a little boring because you got to remember your web browser doesn't really do much work on DNS. It just goes up to your DNS server, which in this case is my router, and waits for the router to give you the answer back. So that's why you see a request and then a response back. That's it. Yeah, I know, not a lot of fun, but it does work. I'm just curious why it says Fred Kirschwerfer instead of just Fred.com. I did not type it wrong. Okay. So there's DNS. What else you guys want to do? We could do a regular web page. All right, let's see if I do it right this time. You ready? Whenever we run WireShark, the first thing we do, let me clear that filter out. I'm going to start a capture, capture start, continue without saving. I'm going to let that capture go. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to open up my web browser. And I am going to go to my router. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. All right, so here's my router. Ta-da! Now if you look up in the corner here, you'll see that this router is not secure. It's just regular HTTP. So now let's head over to WireShark and turn off the capture. All right, capture turned off. Okay, so here we go. Now I got to find some HTTP. Please be there. Okay, yay! I have a lot more HTTP traffic than I thought I was going to get. So this is a great example where I'm going to have to dig through here and find it because it's my cameras. I'm really going to have to check these cameras out. My cameras are puking out all this HTTP traffic. So my cameras are HTTP servers, as they should be. Well, this is where WireShark becomes fun. I mean, this is really the joy of it. So let me, bear with me, guys. Yeah, let me get you guys can at least look while I'm poking around. So what I'm trying to find that website I went to, which was oh, maybe that's it right there. So, oh shoot, hang on. So a lot of times you're like, well, what is this chunk of data? Now this data is unencrypted, so I can do something very cool, and I can go like this. I got to make this a little bit smaller so you guys can see it. Maybe if I can just drag it all up this way. Okay, so I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to select follow. You see that? I can either select a TCP stream or I can say HTTP stream. So in this case, I'm going to select HTTP stream. And what it's going to show me is the raw HTTP, the HTML data with the HTTP information on top of it for the actual web of that little web page. So it gives me some of these, like, so there's some icons on there that are graphics. Obviously, it can't do that. But it gives me some idea of what's going on. There are ways to take that data and to completely rebuild the web page. It's been a while since I've done it. I forget how to do it. But it's built into WireShark. I rarely do that because if I'm looking at unencrypted data, I'm so familiar with the protocols. It's like that scene from The Matrix where the guy's just looking at the letters falling. He's like, I see blondes, brunettes, redheads. I don't have to convert it into the original data, but you can. I don't remember how to do it. Sorry, guys. All right. So here we can actually look at, so I'm going to do this one more time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a follow TCP stream. And in this case, it's going to come exactly the same as follow HTTP. All right, let's try something else. You guys ready? Here we go. So in order to sort it out a little bit more, I want to, oh, that's just a finished favorite icon. Okay, right here is what I was trying to find. Can you guys read that? Let me bring it back to the other screen. What I'm trying to find is the actual beginning of the protocol. So what you're seeing here, so this is my computer is the source. It's talking to my router. Can I make that just a little so I can see it all? Yeah, that's close enough. So here's my computer talking to my router, and he's created, that's the initial contact. So you see he's talking to, on port 80, and he's doing called a SYN, S-Y-N. And then here's my router coming back and talking to my machine and doing called a SYNAC, saying, yes, I'm ready to talk to you. and then my computer says, okay, man, we're ready to talk. Start sending it down through an ACK. This is the classic HTTP three-way handshake. SYN for the initial, SYN ACK for the server responding back, and then acknowledge says, start sending me the data. And then all of this goo in here is the guy sending this stuff back. There's some interesting stuff here, like here it says where it's my computer talking to him. Here, there's going to be some kind of order that the way the web page is built that's asking for the pictures to come up early. And then here's the picture coming in, there's a little PNG file, and then it comes through. Now, I'm sure you guys would like me to turn this into an HTTP course, but A, it's not really on any of the exams, and we really want to make this a WireShark course. So what's important up to this point is that we've been using two tools. Number one, we use that filtering tool all the time, in particular if we're looking for protocols. Now remember, I'm saying that we're filtering just on protocols, but you can filter on all kinds of stuff in WireShark. Let's do it this way. So here I've got, it says that TCP stream 31 because I said, to follow on that one. So I'm going to clear that out. All right, so what if there was something I wanted to look at, like for example here. I can go ahead and I can say apply as filter. I really want you guys to see this. So I'm just clicking on the destination address. So I can say apply as filter, and by default it's going to say by the destination IP address equals to 172.18.13.1. So if I select that, it's only, see how it all says just the destination address? Let me go ahead and clear that out. There are thousands of ways to filter, and that's a really important part of learning and understanding how to use WireShark, is to use the filters tool, especially if you've got some capture file that's got 30 million lines in it. The capture tool becomes very, very important. Okay. Let's do one more that's unencrypted. How are we doing on time, Scott? Ooh. I was going to do FTP because it's kind of fun to watch and it's unencrypted, but it's already 20 minutes into this. Has everybody left, Scott, or are they still watching? Well, we've still got a few people in here. Okay, we're doing all right then, I guess? Okay, good. You guys are talking about Bloom County. Shows you how scintillating my conversation is, huh? All right. Okay, so what I want to do now is let's talk about, so we saw with HTTP, that initial connection, SYN, SYNAC, and then SYN, SYN. I want to do it. I want to do another handshake, except this time I want to do it under TLS. TLS is going to add a lot to this. So what we want to do is we want to go to a secure web page, okay? And to go to that secure web page, we have to go and actually get the certificate and go through all this rigmarole. So HTTP, being unsecure, had a three-way handshake. TLS, they call it a four-way handshake, but it's actually more than that. So let me go ahead and show you how all this works. Burp, burp, burp. Okay, here we go. All right, so I've got a little client over here on the left and a server on the right, okay? And this client wants to get a secure web page from this web server, okay? And the internet is between them. So what I want to do first is he's going to send a packet. And it says, I'd like to set up a secure session, and here's what I can do. We knew about the time web browsers were invented that there would be a big need for security. I'm going back to the 1994 here, guys. And so the official first big popular browser was called Netscape Navigator. There were some before, but Navigator was the one that put it all on the map. And so what took place there is they had to come up with some methodology to make things secure, okay? So this security, we need to, number one, verify, authenticate. Am I really talking to www.ebay.com, for example? I want to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. Obviously, I want encryption. If I'm typing in my credit card number, I don't want anybody to see that. So there's a lot going on here. And the original protocol was called SSL. I don't remember Scott, what does SSL stand for? I forget. And SSL didn't last very long. SSL was already obsolesced by the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was replaced with something called TLS, or Transport Layer Security. So Transport Layer Security is a protocol that's designed to verify that you're talking to the person you want to talk to. It's going to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks, and it's going to encrypt. So TLS is not an encryption protocol. You understand? TLS uses encryption protocols like AES, like RSA, and TLS is not an authentication protocol, but it's going to be using things like hashes and stuff like that to verify that you are that person. It's going to be using certificates and this thing called PKI. But TLS, Transport Layer Security, is a package that's designed to do all this stuff. So when you have a web browser talking to a web server, you have to negotiate how you're going to do all this stuff. Like, for example, do you want to use RSA encryption? But you're like, Mike, we're using certificates, therefore we have to use RSA. Not necessarily. There's other ways to do asymmetric encryption, kids. We can use something called elliptic curve cryptography, which is based on this curve formula, and basically we pick the formula for the curve, and then we pick a certain number of points on the curve, and then I don't tell you my points, and you can use that as a tool. They have this thing called Diffie-Hellman, where basically, Diffie-Hellman's fascinating. And in these types of situations, if you're not using RSA, you're not even using the public key. The certificate's just used to confirm that it's eBay, that the certificate's good, that there's not a man-in-the-middle attack. Do you get that? Isn't that cool? You think about that. Because on Monday, we were talking about certificates, and therefore certificates were used for asymmetric encryption. Well, there's other asymmetric encryptions out there. And here's the problem. Any web browser and any web server, they don't know what the other ones can do. You see? So the first thing that your browser does is he goes to the server and goes, look, I can do RSA, or I can do elliptic curve. I like to do 256-bit AES. I want to use this type of hash. You get the idea? And these are called cyber suites. And I'm going to show them to you in WireShark. So the first thing that your browser says is, here's all the things I can do. Pick one and tell me which one we're doing. Okay? So then the web server, this is the next line. So the web server talks back and he goes, okay, here's the one I want to use, and he passes the certificate. The third step is that your web browser checks the certificate. And here's where the web browser goes through and verifies this is www.ebay.com. Make sure the certificate isn't ancient. The hash file that came with the certificate is legitimate for that certificate. You can actually do more than that. They have things like certificate revocation lists, where if your web browser wanted to, it could check the CRL. There's a what replaced certificate revocation list. There's another technology. It slips the top of my head that, and it's on the Security Plus. I should know this. That's a much more active form of certificate revocation list. So your web browser can check the bejeezers out of the certificate. Cool, huh? You know, a lot of people didn't use the certificate revocation list because they were slow. And people are like, oh, this web browser's slow. No, it's being safe. All right, let's keep on keeping on. All right, so this is an important one. You got to remember that the certificate included the public key, right? So it encrypts what this is a new thing called the pre-master key with the public key and sends it to the web server. Now, guys, in TLS, how these steps take place depends on what type of encryption you're going to use. I'm giving you an example where they're using old school RSA, okay? Classic private public key. But like with Diffie-Hellman, you still get a certificate, but they don't bother putting a public key in it. They just put an initial value. Diffie-Hellman is some of the craziest math you ever saw. And these two guys, they each pick a value, and then they do something with the value, and then they pass a value, and they do something else, and it's wacky. With elliptical curve cryptography, you get them on OCSP, Online Certificate Status Protocol, was what replaced CRL. Thanks, Scott. So there's different ways to do this is all I'm trying to tell you. But the bottom line is if we're doing RSA, it's going to generate this pre-master key, okay? The other ways generate a pre-master key also, but they just don't use the certificate. So once this pre-master key is generated, remember, you encrypt with the public key and you decrypt with the private. So he can now send this pre-master key back up to the web server, and as you might be able to guess, web server is going to decrypt it. Ugh. So the web server then decrypts the pre-master key with this private key, and now they both are ready, and now they're switching to AES. All of the asymmetric stuff is over, baby. Isn't that crazy? We went through all this pain of public keys or elliptical curve or Diffie-Hellman just to get a key passed, because this is going to be a lot faster. So they each send each other a test message, and if they're good, then they start talking, and you go buy yourself some new hard drives on eBay or whatever you're going to do. So, well, okay, Falak, did that help? I did that just for you, man, because you asked that question. But you're going to say, well, Mike, why don't you show it to us in WireShark? Okie dokie, I'll do just that. So what we're going to do this time is, once again, I went ahead and pre-made this. Now, you can go through a process to actually decrypt all of your data in WireShark. Just do a Google search on decrypt TLS in WireShark. And WireShark is, you got to keep in mind, it's your data, right? You're at the computer, so if you're opening up a secure browser, then you should be able to look at it any way you want, including outside of a browser. Got the idea? I almost feel like I have to show you how to do that. It's not that hard. All you have to do is, in Windows, you set up why don't we just do it instead of me guessing? Hang on, let me go get to the right spot. An environment variable. There we go. Jeez, Mike. One sec. So here, while I'm doing this, keep in mind that if we can capture secure web pages without going through what I'm looking at, but the end result of it, when we type in follow TCP stream, is just going to be gobbledygook. Because it's encrypted, right? I hate it when I do this. not computer management. Where do I set a stinking environment variable in Windows? Control panel. This is where I get in trouble because I'm still bouncing between services and control panels so much. All right. Here, let's bring it up. All right, so here's old school control panel. So I go to, where do I go to? System? Network. Yeah, system. Here. We go to system. And then I go to advanced system settings. And once I've started advanced system settings, I go to environment variables. Glad I'm recording all this. All right. And what you have to do is you have to create this variable. It has to have this name. Here, bring it up a little bit. It has to be called SSL keylog file. Well, Mike, I didn't think we were using SSL. I thought we were using TLS. Yeah, well, you got to call it SSL keylog file, just like I got it there. You see it? And then you save the file somewhere. The name of the file doesn't matter. I call it syskeylog.log, but you can call it timmythewonderpoodle.txt. Doesn't really matter. And for some reason in Windows, this version of Windows, you have to put it in C:\users / whatever you're logged in as. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go through these steps so you guys can see it, but the reality of the situation is when you try this yourselves, you're going to run into trouble. People are not comfortable with this environment variable feature in Windows. This also works in Linux and on Macs too. It works a little bit differently. And browsers sometimes turn this off. Also, if you're running anti-malware, I can almost guarantee you this won't work. I literally had to delete every form of anti-malware other than the built-in Windows one to get this to work. I had all kinds of stuff on here, and I couldn't just turn them off. I had to delete them. Okay? You've been warned. Do not call me for tech support on this. Go through the internet. Okay, so SS keylog file, and then we make this, hit OK, hit OK, hit OK. And we now have this environment variable. So the moment you type that in, and assuming you don't have malware in there or anti-malware or anything, if you take a look, I'm always paranoid of what I can show you guys. Did I just snort? I think I did. I snorted. All right, so here we go. I'm going to show you my computer. All right, so we'll go in here and where's this PC, C drive. Where did I put it? Users, Mike. And if I've done it right, oh, there it is. Ta-da! So that file now exists. If I open this file, it's a mess. It is storing all of our keys. Now these will be deleted after a little bit of time, okay? So this is not a permanent thing, and it's a tool for debugging more than anything else. And I wouldn't try this on Chrome. I'd certainly not try this. I'd just do it on Firefox. That's the one I can guarantee that it'll work. Because the web browser makers, they get nervous about this too, and they disable it. So my current version of Firefox, this worked. That's all I can tell you. We used this, and this is not new, by the way. This has been around for 10 years. It's just that people keep changing their mind. Okay, so now that we have that ability, all we have to do is go into WireShark. Now keep in mind, I have the most recent version of WireShark. It's not going to work this way. You guys got to be able to see the pull downs. So what I'm going to do, I go under Edit. This is extremely irritating. Let me scroll. I want you guys to be able to see what I'm doing. Edit. I hit Preferences. Under Preferences, you got to click on Protocols. Scroll all the way down to TLS. If you have an older version of WireShark, like the previous version, if you have the previous version of WireShark, it'll be, you have to go under SSL. So if you just, so you can see there is no SSL anymore. See that? So you got to go to TLS. Yep, there it is. And just type in the pre-master secret log file name. Leave everything else at the defaults. The moment you do that, your data will now be able to be read. There's some challenges to this though, guys. Reading that data isn't always the easiest thing. Websites are full of graphics, and very rarely do people use straight text. A lot of times you're just downloading a JavaScript file, which is then being processed. So don't think that just because you can hack into a secure web page on your own machine that you can actually read that data. You can read it some, but it's under a format called HTML2, which is a little wacky. And I don't want to turn this into an HTML2 course. This is a WireShark course. I wanted to make sure you guys knew how to do stuff like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull up a TLS capture that I did earlier, and we'll take a look at that. Okay, so this is a TLS capture I did about an hour ago, and the first thing I'm going to want to do is filter out the stuff that I don't want to look at. So what I want to do is let's look for TLS. All right. So here's the actual TLS right here. Do you see this? Here's the actual client hello. And in this client hello is going to be I'm hoping you got, can you read it? Do you see where it says Cipher Suites? This is what it's all about right here. These are all of the different things that this web browser can do. Now obviously you're all TLS. Here's good old RSA, public-private key, old school. Here's this elliptical curve Diffie-Hellman. This is a new one that I'm barely aware of called Cha-Cha 20, which is supposedly replacing RSA. Don't worry, kids, there'll still be all kinds of stuff in there. Here's two different kinds of AES. Do you see those? That's right. You can actually set this up where you're like, oh, forget the authentication stuff. Just hand me the key over the air, unencrypted. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back and finish looking at this. Okay, so, but that's just the first part. So if you take a look in here, you'll see AES 128 GCM, AES 128 GCM, AES 256 CBC. That's the symmetric encryption you want to use after you've done the handshake, right? So that's the actual thing. Now you can see most of these are AES, but that GCM and CBC, the problem with AES encryption, it's a very, very good encryption, but it's a block encryption. And because it's a block encryption, it takes a file, okay, and it grabs 128 bits and it encrypts it. Then it grabs the next 128 bits and encrypts it. Unfortunately, big files like photographs, pictures of kitty cats and stuff like that tend to have common data in 32 or 64-bit chunks, okay? So you can go ahead and encrypt that picture of the kitty cat, but all you're going to end up doing is changing the colors of the different pixels. You're not actually encrypting it because you can look at it and it'll just look like a negative of the kitty cat. Get the idea? Even text, that can be a problem. because it's not that the same text would show up every 128 bits, but people type in the same words and stuff like that. So even a very good encryption like AES, by the way, guys, this is on Security Plus. Even a very good security encryption like AES, because it uses the same key on the same chunks, it creates the exact same answers sometimes. If the data is exactly the same and you use the same key, it's going to come up with the same thing. Okay? So things like GCM and CBC, there's a few others. These are just methodologies that will create a value. So let's say you go ahead and you grab the first 128 bits. You go ahead and encrypt it, right? So now it's encrypted. You can take that piece of encrypted data and use it to mess up the next 128 bits. Or you can take the key and then the next time you use the key, you can apply the previous piece of data to it. You can do all these crazy mixed up things. They're just trying to stir it up more. And that's all of these different types of ways to make AES more complicated. And the browser's telling you what it can do. And then at the very end, that's the type of hash that it's going to want to use for anything that it will be doing. So there you go. And that gives you all that information. Let's scroll that back down. So then here's the server. Can you guys see that? So here's the server responding back. And let's see what this is. This is going to be pretty big. And give me a minute to get this laid out so you guys can see it. Give me just a sec. Okay, anyway, so you can see what he's now going to be accepting. And in this particular, so that he said, okay, this is the one I want to use. So we're going to be using actually a very simplistic one, which I find interesting. Okay. If we go to the next one down, now you can see the certificate being passed. And it just keeps going through this process. Now, because I've saved it, anytime you see this word magic, here, let me scroll this out for you. All this HTTP2, this is unencrypted data. So I'm going to do that follow thing. And this is always the frustrating part because a lot of these, it's a piece of a graphic or a piece of code or something. So it's not really easy to use. And to be honest with you, I am not good at HTTP2. But when somebody tells me that they need to have this unencrypted and send them the HTTP2 via a PCAP file, I can do it. Because that's about where my interest ends. And then I count on guys like Michael Smyer and stuff like that who love code to go ahead and break it down from there. So, that, my friends, is a quick rundown on the power and joy that is WireShark. If there's anything I could get you guys to walk away with on this is make sure you have a basic understanding of the interface. Make sure you understand that filtering is your buddy. In order to capture something, you start a capture, do whatever you're going to do, stop doing what you're going to do, and then end the capture. And those are the processes. And you use the filters. You can have it. You can set it up. You can set up the filters to only capture stuff, so you could keep all that out. What you're going to discover is that as you play with WireShark, that protocol line, all of these protocols, you're going to have so much fun digging through these because you'll want to know what they are. And that is a good thing. And anytime you see the word application data, that just means it's encrypted. All right. So I hope that at least got you guys jump started. We went way past what you're going to need to know for Net Plus or Security Plus. But, you know, it's good. And it's a tool you should understand. I'm not very good at WireShark, but I'm very good at understanding there's things I can do with WireShark, and then I look up and try to find somebody who has already done it for me. All right. Secure socket layer. Thank you, Holly and JC Martin. Isn't that funny? I forgot that. Jason Helms. Mike, I'm completely lost. That's okay, man. Phallic, does the client check certificate of server every time when a new page is loaded, or only for the first page? It's for that session. As long as you are connected to that website, www.ebay.com, it doesn't matter what page you're on. Kevin Carlson, how often do I do this? How often do I stream? I do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time here in Houston, Texas, USA. These run from 2 o'clock my time till 4 o'clock my time, or until the questions run out. And keep in mind that we don't always have topics like this. So, you know, the idea is that you ask me questions, right? So on top of that, I want to make sure we understand, you can also contact me if you need to. Send me, email is the best way to contact me, especially if you have a question that you think is complicated that might take some time to answer it. This is a place to go. What's the best PC projectors for gaming? I don't game. I mean, I game on my machine, on my beautiful 4Ks. I'm still pushing on a, what's the famous line of projectors? They have the three birds, the three colorful birds as their icon. I got a 1080 LED projector. Oh, so embarrassing. You guys asking me brand name stuff. It's 1080. It's like 1600 lumens. I mean, that thing, when you turn it on, it kind of goes. But I can't remember the name of it. You guys are going to say it. Super famous. ViewSonic. Thank you, Scott. ViewSonic. I've had really good luck with that. I would never buy anything other than an LED, but I've been real happy with it. Terrence Tech. Mike, your advice on how to efficiently split up lab time and book study time. In a way that works best for you, Terrence, it's the thing is that I can't give you a study methodology that works for everybody. About the only thing, mailman, about the only thing I'm going to tell you is that some people are video, remember my triumvirate, right? Book, you know, and all this. So you're saying the word lab, which means you want to practice stuff. You should practice stuff when it sounds exciting to practice, right? So if you're in the book and you're reading about NetStat for the first time, or if you're on a video and you're watching NetStat for the first time, that's your cue. Put down the book, turn off the video, play a little bit. Or a lot of other people, like they'll complete whatever the book says, complete whatever the video says, and then they'll play. It's play. Come on, call it play. You know, you're talking about virtual machines. To me, you should always, you know, go through the videos, go through the books, and then do it. And keep doing it. Do it a lot until you're comfortable with it. Kevin Carlson, I'm starting my next IT temp contract in the next few days in a hospital. Any advice for working night desktop support in a hospital? Oh, I can tell you about working nights. I used to be pretty good at it. When you get home from work at 8 a.m., don't go straight to bed. Try to stay up till about noon to 2 o'clock, and then try to get your 8 hours in, because then you'll wake up at about 8, 9 o'clock at night, and you get a few hours. Just like when you wake up in the morning, you just got a couple hours before you go to work. Try to get that sleep shift in as fast as you possibly can, because that's murderous. And stay safe out there, man. This corona is not a joke. Peter Hunt, lost though. So guys, when you get lost on, it's okay to get lost. Everybody gets lost on any kind of instruction. What you got to start saying to yourself, this is a trick I do. So it doesn't matter what you're learning. You're learning something, okay? Okay, I got this, I got this, I got this. I am now lost. And that's one of the big benefits of instructor-led training is that, like Peter, if you were having trouble, you could sit there and go, okay, time out, I'm lost. But to me, the actual saying it out loud helps because you're not totally lost. You know that WireShark's a protocol analyzer, right? You know that you do this thing called capturing, right? So you know something. The trick is where did I lose you? And then, and everybody's going to be different. So don't be afraid to holler. Unfortunately, we really can't do this on AMAs, but next time if I'm teaching something, the moment you feel yourself getting lost, just like write down what he just said or do something to help you understand kind of where you're at. Review what you do know, even if it's the first 2 minutes. Review what you do know, and then send me an email. All right, Mike, I don't get this. I don't get that, okay? And then we can build from that. When people just say, I don't understand. Do it again. I was like, I don't want to do it again. Let's pick up from where you left off, and then we can do it. I preach too much. Okay, man, I forgot everything. Did you guys know that you get outrageous discounts just because you're coming here today? Da-da-da-da-da. Where is it? Scott, do we have specials for today? Oh, thank you. Okay, Scott's putting it up there in the live chat. So all you got to do, it's 60% off all of our simulations, which are the performance-based questions, and our practice tests. And this is for anything. Guys, we do a lot more than Security Plus. CASB, CYSA, PenTest. Do we do PenTest? I don't want to lie. Bunches of them in there. So all you got to do is go to www.totalsem.com and go ahead and buy what you want. I'm about the cheapest practice question person out there. And PenTest Plus and AWS certs too. Thank you, Scott. And just go to www.totalsem.com, go to our store, pick up the practice questions you want. These are online questions, folks, so you can just log in and get them anytime you want. And you use the secret code this week is MMLive Blue Skies, just like Scott Jernigan has it on there for you. And that's 60% off. I mean, we're talking cheap. ISACA. Hey, Mike, can Kali Linux do sniffing like WireShark? Yeah, it can. In fact, if you look in the Total Seminars channel, I believe Dave Rush did that. I don't want to put words in his mouth. No. Any sysadmin related stuff? Like what, Kevin? Do you want me to show you how to create users or handle passwords? Pass out, security controls? Show you how to update systems? The answer is yes, Kevin, but you're going to have to ask me what you're looking for in terms of administrative. Ozzy, you typed it in 3 times. You're getting smart. Yeah, honestly, if I was going to be using a sniffing tool in any form of Linux, including on a Raspberry Pi, you want to look at TCP dump. It's a good tool. And then grab it with TCP dump, and then if you want to, you can bring it into WireShark and look at it. Emery Labar, if you just want to focus on PowerShell, what would you recommend for me to start? Man, where would I start on PowerShell? Now, Emery, if you're just trying to pass PowerShell for CompTIA exams, you don't have to know that much, to be honest with you. We were talking about doing a PowerShell class. I'm not going to say I'm going to do that, but let me think about that. Maybe we could dedicate a couple hours to PowerShell. It's really some hyper simplistic coding concepts. All that CompTIA wants you to know about PowerShell is that if you need, you're not expected to be a programmer, okay? You're expected to take other people's PowerShells and do things with it. And let me think about that one. I wrote it down, PowerShell. Oh my goodness, it's already 4 o'clock. Whew. Well, today wasn't too terribly much of a panic. Did I do good? Did I do okay? I'm always curious if I'm getting good information. Please send me some emails if you have, especially those of you who feel like you're lost. Whoop, not that one. Send me an email and let's talk about it some more. We don't have to leave it hanging. There you go. Kevin Carlson. Jonathan Wiseman has a great PowerShell class at FLCC. Halak Khan, is it legal to capture traffic? That is a little bit of a question mark. Traffic, in essence, is allowed to be captured if you do anything at all with it in terms of intelligence. Here in the United States, that's a bad thing. All right, guys, it's 4 o'clock. It is time to go. So I don't have any big plans for Friday, but I'm going to tell you one thing for sure. There's going to be some giveaways on Friday. So you might want to show up on Friday. We got busy today, didn't do it. We'll have some giveaways on Friday, some fun competitions, and I'm going to see what comes in terms of questions, and that's kind of what we'll be hitting people up on. But other than that, I'm going to be heading out of here, and I need some food. I'm going to get something to eat. I'm starving, and hopefully little Miss Her Royal Highness Wicked will be here. It's a cute dog. It's a really, really cute dog. But until then, I will see you guys this Friday at 2 o'clock Central Daylight Time here in the United States of America. And until then, this is your little Uncle Mikey saying good night. Good night.